Well, hello, everybody. It is Tuesday. It's 11 a.m. and that can only be one thing. That means it is time for the Better Business Place live Facebook live interview series. And today we have a very, very special guest. This person has been in my contact for a long time. But I wanted to ask you, do you really feel that you can be, do, and have, or even if you want to feel like you can have everything you want? Do you believe that statement? Because for a number of years, I didn't think that was possible. But today's guest is actually going to show us how that can all happen. Please join me in welcoming, I was just about to remove you, but please join me in welcoming Shirley Dalton. Hi, how are you, Shirley?
Hey, Glenn, I'm really, really good.
Now, when I first booked you for the show, I was very excited, but it was months and months out. It took because of your availability. So I'm really, really excited to have you on board. And in the promo, I talked about I've been Shirley-fied, meaning that Shirley is a friend. She has sometimes been a client of mine. I've been a client of hers. And she's a great mentor to me. We often have this joke where, are we recording the session? Aren't we, Cheryl?
Yep.
Because we've always got some great bits of insights going backwards and forwards. But today really is more about Shirley. And she, I'd have to say, you've probably been in my world for about 10 years, do you think?
Yeah, easy.
With the first time that I met you is through BNI?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
You came to a speakers meeting that we were at and you talked about BNI.
Right. Okay. Well, it seems like you've been in my life for such a long time. I can't remember the actual beginning part. Now, before we go into it, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, Shirley?
Okay. Well, as you can see behind me, I'm in a motorhome and we've been traveling for the last 15 months and, showing people that it is actually possible. You can be, do, have and feel what you want. And I decided a while ago, and I'll tell you the backstory later on, but we decided that we wanted to be traveling around Australia and, within a couple of months we had put a deposit on and here we are, we're traveling around and I can work my business. I've been really lucky through COVID, I can work it online and we're in Tasmania at the moment in Strawn.
I've been seeing some beautiful images of you and you do your your daily quote sort of thing, and I'm sort of seeing all these exotic and great locations, and it's hard to believe it's just in Tasmania, just a little hop, skip and jump across. So tell me a little bit about why do you do the work that you do, helping business leaders?
Yeah. Growing up, Glenn, I was an only child and my parents owned a taxi and they worked hard. Like there was money, but there were no holidays. They didn't have weekends and stuff like that. They just worked. Mum worked in the morning, Dad worked in the afternoon and in the evening. And he said to me his best advice for me at the time when I was leaving school, well, two bits. One, I had to get an education. I wasn't allowed to leave school. I had to get one because they didn't have one. And then the second one was get a good job in the government, love. And so I got my first job in the motor registry, and that's where I learned how to do systems because I could go into any motor registry anywhere in New South Wales and do the job. But there was no career path or anything. You had to wait till somebody died before you could get a promotion or anything like that. And I'd always wanted to be a teacher. And so I left my good government job, went to university, did 4 years of that, did 6 months in a high school and went, shit. Oops, am I allowed to say that?
Of course you can. Yep. And by the way, that's probably not the worst thing that's been on the show, if you know me, Cheryl. Yep.
And it just wasn't for me. I loved the kids and I loved teaching, but I just couldn't handle the bureaucracy. And so eventually I did a whole lot of different jobs. But the reason that I do what I do now is because I don't want the business owners to end up like my parents. I don't want their kids to end up like me, growing up where there's no time, there's plenty of money, but we can do it better. And for us living like we are now, it's proof you can have a business and you can have a life.
Yeah, look, I've got one of the people who joined us on the show, Jeff Walsh, has just made a comment, like, my dream is to travel and work. I'll just pop his comment in there. My dream is to travel and work. Ideal early retirement. When I first met you, Shirl, it was all around systems and processes. That's how I knew you. So you took that experience, you took that early education, right? And whilst it wasn't ideal in that situation, you then built a business out of it, right? In the early days.
Yeah. Well,
sorry, I was going to say, do you remember you visioning this is the office that you wanted, and then all of a sudden it came to fruition? And then,
I can remember
it sort of
that.
morphed on to, I want to travel the world, and I've seen nothing but you do that, from your overseas, America ventures, and now you're going through Tasmania. You're living the life you want and still leading leaders. And even with this COVID challenge, you running an event back in Newcastle doesn't really phase you anymore, does it?
No. In fact, the borders got locked down again yesterday between New South Wales and Victoria, where we were heading back to run an event in the end of August. Who knows? But we ran a leadership course online just recently instead of face-to-face. Not as good as face-to-face, but still possible and still doable. Yeah.
So your business has grown and more from those systems sort of processes. Tell me about the people that you really serve right now.
I work with the business owners who are frustrated, pissed off, and overwhelmed with their team, their business, and their life.
Fuck, that's every business owner I know. all dealing with that frustration all the time.
Yeah, and what we can do is to actually show them. I've developed what I call the blueprint for business success, and we'll go through that a little bit later in the training part of it. But there's basically 3 parts to it. It's people, process, and possibilities. And as you were saying, I morphed. So I started my business doing systems and helping people to systemize their business. Now, not IT, but in facilitating. What do you need? What do you need? Okay, can you get that to her by Wednesday? Yep. What's the best method? Email or memo or phone call? Email. Great. Is that what we're going to do? Yep. And so people would have these systems in place. Once I finished the job and I moved out, then what I found was that the systems fell over. I mean, like scratching my head, how come? We've agreed. And that's when I realized that the owners didn't know how to lead and manage their people. And so I just started coaching them because of the, qualifications I've got and the experience that, I mentored 200 odd franchisees when I was working with Kip McGrath Education Centres. So I just started coaching them. And then I went and did more leadership work for myself, and then became able to offer people the leadership. So we had people, we got process. And then as I've done more work on neuroscience and mindset and the law of attraction, etc., then it became possibility. And so that's really the 3 Ps that we help people with, so that you can actually be, do, have, and feel what you want. You can create the business that you want.
So if you're not living example of running your business out of a motorhome, touring the globe, if that's not an example of living the life that you want, you're doing exactly what you preach. But the thing that I noticed in that is that, like every business owner, they feel like they have to have it all laid out and all mapped out and all done, right? And then they go to market. When I first met you, you had a set of skills and were doing it in Kip McGrath, and then you moved into Shirley Dalton.com, and you're teaching or systematizing businesses. In fact, someone I was talking to this morning, Jonathan Dodge, he had a business called IT Jobs, and you came in and wrote his whole systems, right? And then it sort of morphed on to you started doing some work with me, because what I want you to do is comment in the button here below, or give me some like sort of thing if this is you. You say yes to everything, and 90% of that you really wish, as soon as you said yes, you wish that you'd said no. Just comment in the chat bar if that was you, all right? Because that's where I was many, many years ago. I went to a training that Shirl had, and then now I know how to say no with a smile. And I thank them for the opportunity, for thinking of me. But that's not for me at this particular time. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of likes coming in through the bars there. But then Shirl didn't stop there. She sort of went, well, this is what I want for me and my husband and my business. But she saw an opportunity with business owners and then had to go and get some training, some new skills, really. So that part, as long as I've known you, it really has never stopped. You're always learning and you're always seeing gaps in the marketplace. Is that right, Shirl?
Yeah, I'm always learning and then I'm always sharing what I learn, and that's just part of my DNA. It's part of who I am. So, people tell me, oh, you know enough, and I'll never know enough.
Well, how could you be a coach if you don't have getting coached all the time? That's what I always sort of say. Okay. So I want to ask you this one. What has been the biggest challenge in your business and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, biggest challenge for me, and people can probably relate to this, although not to the extreme. When you get those, what I call the fetal moment where business is just imploding on you, you're looking at your cash flow, you don't know where the next customer's coming from, and all you want to do is curl up on the floor and cry. Well, for me, we had a few things go wrong, and I was in a really dark place, like really, really dark, and people wouldn't know this about me, and I don't normally talk about it too much. But I actually wanted to check out, and I actually went to my accountant, and I said to him, this will be our last meeting, I'm going. And he's looking like, oh my God. And my husband was just petrified that, he was going to come home one day and find a mess to clean up. And it was bad. Like, I was really, really bad. And but that I'm telling people that because you can get past that, but you can get past that when you have some help and when you actually put your hand up. And I was getting some mentoring at the time. I had lots of people in my life. I had David Bayer, I had Bernadette O'Connor, and David said to me, I was complaining. I said, I don't have a vision. And he goes, I don't believe you. And I'm like, I've just told you I don't have a vision. And he said, I don't believe you. And I said, well, what's my vision then? And he said, Shirley, you've been telling us forever that you want to live by the ocean. He said, that's a vision. You got to work out through that. And then I went to Bernadette, and Bernadette does some woo-woo stuff, and she sort of channeled this, and she said, oh, you've got to go to the beach, which is, of course, my favorite place. Anyway, so she said, oh, it's this special beach, starts with S, and I knew exactly which one that was Seal Rocks. And so I've driven up there this day. I was doing some work for a client. I don't know what I did. I hit some button and the whole thing went, and I just lost all the work, and I'm crying. I'm on the floor, and my husband's just had stitches on his leg, and I'm bouncing all over his leg. And I said, oh, why didn't you get me off? And he said, Shirl, the pain I had was nothing compared to what you were going through. Anyway, I've driven myself up to Seal Rocks, and as I've gone up to the lighthouse, and I've just looked and out over the ocean, it was like, it was just like, just the pressure and everything just went. And I'm looking around, and, I spent a couple of hours there, and because this was my homework. And then as I'm driving home, I thought, no, I really want to go around Australia. I've been waiting to do this since I was in my early 20s, got a truck license and everything to do it, all those years ago. And so from then I had the vision, and within 3 months, we had nothing at that stage. Within 3 months, we had enough money to get the motor home and to go, and, things have just never looked back. And so, that's one of my biggest challenges. And if I hadn't had the help from other people, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
I am very emotional by that because I am really aware of just how much you've been in my life, because I never knew how dark it got, but I do remember you at Seal Rocks, and I remember the beach walks and so many wonderful things that I've seen and experienced with you in your life, but I didn't realize that you got to that particular stage. So I know I made the, checking out sort of joke sort of thing, but what Shirl just sort of shared then was a very real moment for her, and she has people around. Like a lot of us do have people around, but when you're in that fetal position, sometimes you just don't see all that. All right. And I just want to thank you very much for sharing, Shirl. And if you ever get that way again, I'll come up and kill you if you do something like that. Myself, because you've been such a big person in my life. All right.
Thank you. And just add one more thing on that too. One of the other things was that Ross and I had promised each other 50 years of happy marriage. And so, this night I've gone to bed and said, I'm sorry, I'm doing it. And then the next day I woke up and I said, okay, it's totally off the table. And he's looked at me, and because he kept reminding me, you promised. And I think that's something else that we really take for granted, is that if you make a commitment, sometimes it's that commitment that will get you through.
Yeah, that's a big one. And by the way, to everybody watching, I'm very cautious when I make commitments to Cheryl, because she definitely keeps me accountable around them. Okay, so let's move along and talk about, get your education. And this is really valuable. I've seen the presentation we're all just about to look at now. A couple of things. If you've got some comments or some questions, please type them in the chat bar. You'll see that StreamYard, if you click that link on StreamYard, then your image will come up. So inside the Facebook group, when we drag through the questions at the end, we promise to get to all the questions. But Cheryl's got a really great presentation for us. So I just want to set this up. If you're someone now that thinks that you can't have all those things and you really think they're out of your reach, whether or not it's you being the person or you wanting that particular person or having that experience, you just really don't think that you can, I am, and Cheryl's absolutely a proven example. These are the types of people you work with. You're going to love what she's going to go on and teach us about. So let me just bring the presentation in. And for everybody watching, you're going to see Cheryl nod, right? That's because I'm running the PowerPoint presentation. I've become the lackey for this particular occasion, and Cheryl's going to teach us. Take it away, Cheryl.
Okay. All right. So we know the promise. So let's get going, Glenn. All right. Next one, please. Let's talk about being skeptical. And what we've come up with here, I mentioned before, is our blueprint for business freedom. And it's a bit difficult to see there. But where we're going is down to the bottom, just before the star. And we're going to be looking at the obstacles. And so I mentioned before, we have people, process, and possibilities. And that one, the last one there, that last blue one before the star, it says, I can clear my obstacles. And so this is what we're really looking at. This blueprint, there's 9 milestones, and you can start at any place. And if it was clearer for people, then I would have asked people where they were on that. But for time's sake, Glenn, we can give that to people as a handout, and they can have a look at it and make a comment later. So let's get into where we're going. So we all remember Yoda in Star Wars, and there's one particular scene there where Luke Skywalker has crashed his plane, and he comes out and he's got his hand up like this, and he's doing his best to get this thing to raise up out of the swamp, and he can't do it. It's no good. And so along comes Yoda, and Yoda just sort of goes, and next minute, up it comes and it's out, and he's put it across. And Luke Skywalker comes up and he says to him, I don't believe it. And Yoda goes, that is why you fail. And so let's start with the next slide then, please, Glenn. And that is that this is not a cliche. This is actually behavior psychology, and it's also neuroscience. And that is that our beliefs dictate our destiny. And I love Star Wars because way back when they knew all of this before it became science. So let's have a look at this. Here's what most people think, that here's where you are and here's where you want to be. And there's a gap in the middle. And what most people think is that they need a strategy, and they go out and, I need sales training, and then they'll go and do the sales training, and then they come back and it doesn't work, or an employer will send their team to it and go, that didn't work. I can't get them to do it. But the reason why we can't do it is because what we need before a strategy is a belief. Your belief has to be in alignment with what you want. Otherwise, the strategy won't work, or you'll execute poorly or not at all. And once you've changed your belief, then often the strategy appears, or you'll be in a better position to implement and to get those results. So this is a really important slide for people to get. Don't go looking out there for all of the strategies. Look first to make sure that your belief is in alignment with where you want to be. So let's have a look at this thing called limiting beliefs. And they're called limiting beliefs because they limit us in some way. And beliefs, can work for us, and that's great. Keep those ones. But others stop us from what we want. And so if I give you an example, I'm going to use religion, but it's not about religion. It's just to give you an example. So we've got a Catholic.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
They read the Bible, they go to church on Sunday, they say their confessions. Then the next one is a 7-day Adventist. They have their holy day on a Saturday, usually finish work at sundown on a Friday, and often vegetarian. And then we have the Muslims, and they pray to Allah and they read the Quran and often partake of Ramadan. So, it's a rhetorical question, but think about it. Who's right? Now, we don't know if they're all right, if one of them's right, if one of them's wrong, all wrong, we don't know. So if we could go to the next slide, please, Glenn. What we know, though, is that our belief dictates our behaviour, which determines the results, which reinforces the belief that we get. So if I'm a Catholic, I go to church on Sunday, I get the results according to that. If I'm a 7-day Adventist, I do that behaviour, etc. So that's why it's just an example to show you how important this is. Now, because we don't know who's right or who's wrong, our first one is that belief is not equal to fact. And so I really want you to get that. It's not equal to fact. Where do we get our beliefs from? We get them from three places. We get them from our friends and family, from our society, and from our experience. And so, you might hear your parents say, money's hard to make, or business owners, there's no good people. Well, these are things that we have grown up with, or things that we've experienced. And so then they become what we call like the lens, and we'll see that later, that we look through life. Next one, please. And there's the lens. So, you've got your lenses on, and everything that you do in life comes through this lens of your belief. Next one, please. So David Bayer talks about the 5 primary drivers. He takes this a little bit further. So where we had belief, behavior, results, now we're looking at how the human being operating system works. And so we start with a belief, and then that belief determines the thoughts that we have. And this is critical. Our thoughts can only ever be in alignment with our beliefs. There can't be any other way. And so this is why, again, we've got to come back to what's underneath it is the beliefs. Those thoughts then determine how we feel. So they influence our feelings. And that then motivates or demotivates the action that we take, which then determines the results that we get, or sometimes AKA problems, which then reinforces our beliefs. So I'll give you an example of that in a minute, but if we can, this is basically what happens. So we have our belief, determines our thoughts, generates the feelings, causes us to act or not take action, which then produces our results, which of course reinforces this belief. And we call this a psychocybernetic loop. So in neuroscience, all it is your brain going down one habitual way, and that way is not working for us. So we have to change that. So if we have a look at the next slide, please. What I know working with people is that I can listen to you and I can hear your beliefs, and I can see the results that you will get, or I can see the results that you've got and then usually determine the belief that you've got. So if we have a look at the bottom one there, can't find good people. I hear this a lot with business owners. There's no good people out there. And so because they've got that belief, then the whole psychocybernetic loop ends up that they can't delegate, that they've got staff turnover, that they're micromanaging their people, which of course is reinforcing their belief that they can't find good people. And so that's just one example there. So if I'll give you another example, Glenn, if we go to the next one, please. So limiting belief. So one of mine was nobody wants what I've got to offer. Now, logically, you would say, well, that's ridiculous. This is what was running the show. So if I've got nobody wants what I've got to offer, then the thoughts that I'm going to have when I'm starting to advertise or market is, what's the point? Or I won't get the advertising right. I won't have the words right. Nobody's going to look at it anyway. Nobody's going to want it. So there's the thoughts that are happening. So then what does that make me feel? Next one. Doesn't feel very good. I feel frustrated, dejected, rejected, all of those rotten feelings to start with. So then what's the action that I do? Well, I don't do a very good email, or I don't do very good copying, or I don't even do anything. And so if I don't take it and I procrastinate, then of course, what's the result that I get? Nobody wants what I have to offer. And so therefore that reinforces the belief. Nobody wants what I have to offer, because I'm not getting those new clients. And, once we become aware of this, then we can change it. So is any of this ringing any bells? Next one, Glenn.
Just comment below or give us some likes if you're liking what you're learning so far.
Yeah. So any clangers there? So next question then, or next comment, I should say. Your brain is a goal-achieving machine. And so we understand this now, but your brain it's not doing the thinking. It's just in this loop, okay? It's the limiting belief that's causing all of this, and your brain is just acting in accordance with this. And I'm going to show you how to change it in a minute, okay? So next one, please, Glenn. Is it easy or hard to change a belief? Now, the answer to that, if it's easy or hard to change a belief, is actually a belief, because it is actually easy to change a belief. Hang on, go back, please, Glenn. Okay. So then our question becomes, how do you change your belief? Now, this next slide, I want you to write down, please, because this is critical. This is the key. This comes from David Bayer, and you won't hear this at other places, even though people talk about limiting beliefs. The next slide, please, Ken. A belief is a decision that you've made. It's not that there's no good men and women out there. It's that you've decided that there's no good men and women out there. It's not that money's hard to make. It's that you've decided money is hard to make. So these are decisions. And so if you think about a belief, sometimes it's like they're like a cloud. They're a bit ephemeral, hard to get your hand around. But when you look at it and you go, you know what? A belief is a decision that I've made. You do know how to make a new decision. Because, you decided you wanted to buy a car, you bought a car. You decide to get another car, you buy another car. You decide to go out with someone, you decide you don't want to go out with them. You decide to get a job, you don't like that job, you get another job. They're all decisions that you can make. And so these beliefs are actually decisions. And so what we can do is we can make a new decision. So with my example, where people don't want what I have to offer, then I made a new decision. Then I'm actually out of integrity if I don't make an offer when I know I can help someone. And so there's a little bit more to it. We have to stack it, and we have to get some evidence and show the brain, so that the brain will now go in a different direction. But it's basically that. It's basically making a new decision. And I remember, Glenn, you said that I helped you to make a decision.
Remember
about your money.
About the money? Yeah, let me just share on that. Shirley and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and money was tight. Money wasn't coming in. And Shirley just sort of, we had a bit of a chat, and then all of a sudden I decided that money comes to me in many ways in abundance. And within 24 hours, I walked out and I was on the way to the car, and I found 10 cents on the ground. I went, wow, Shirley was right, but 10 cents. But then I drove up the street to do some shopping, and I saved $2.44. And I sort of went, wow, okay, well, so there's two examples where money's come into my life. I didn't specify the amount, but 10 cents came in, which is money, and $2.44 saving also came in there. But then what happened within the next 48 hours was that just continued to happen over and over again. And there was one day where there was an amount of over $16,000 worth of money came in from multiple different sources, not just one person putting 16,000 in, but it was 4,000 here and 2,000 there and 1,000 there. I was like, oh my God, that's exactly right. So it wasn't necessarily the amount, although my belief, I believed more when it came in at 16,000, but I actually believed it when it came in at 10 cents and $2.44, because that's exactly what I'd manifested after speaking with Shirley.
Yeah, and the key thing there is that you've got to look for the evidence, because otherwise, if you think about Mindset 1.0, it was all about affirmations and motivation. But what happens is when you say, oh, money comes to me easily, your brain goes, yeah, rubbish. I haven't got any evidence for that. And so you need to be stacking the evidence for your brain to switch over now and go, okay, this is the way we're going. And so now that you've made that new decision, if we have a look at the next slide, please. 3 powerful things happen when you make a new decision. And remember, we said our thoughts have to be in alignment with our beliefs. So if a belief is a decision and you've made a new decision, now your thoughts and ideas have to be in alignment with that. So now you're going to get new thoughts and new ideas because they're going to be in alignment with your new decision. And the second thing is that your perception will change. So your reticular activating system, your RAS, it's been filtering out all of the opportunities that have always been there in front of you, but you weren't looking for it. And so now, because you've made this new decision, you're actually starting to see them. And then the third thing is the magic happens, synchronicity and coincidences, things that you couldn't think about or plan for just pop up. And so, it's incredible what happens when you make that new decision. And so, yeah, I think that's the real key to it, Glenn. What we've been talking about is the limiting beliefs and how the human being operating system works. And we know now through neuroscience that we can actually change that. And so if you like to go to our last slide there, we'll finish up with helping people if they'd like to get in touch with me. And as a thank you to your audience and as a thank you to you, what I can offer people is a 30-minute, what I call an aha session. So it's not a sales call. I won't be making any sales offers or anything like that on it. It's purely 30 minutes for me to work with you and look at your limiting beliefs and see if we can uncover some of those and then give you some tips and techniques on what you can do to cement that. So you can email me or you can go to chatwithshirley.com and book in the half an hour. And if you're interested, we have weekly thoughts every Friday morning where we have some inspiration, education and support. And, talking about commitment earlier, I haven't missed a week in over 10 years now. So I invite people to sign up for that. It's free and you can unsubscribe anytime.
Okay, so I'm just going to remove that for a sec. Sort of just back to you and I. I can promise you this, that there's a lot of reading material that comes through my desk. The weekly thoughts are something that I always just enjoy. Just grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, sit down and read something that's very, very heartfelt, easy to read. And I always have these epiphanies going, wow. And even if it's just for that moment where I just connect with myself again or just slow down and take stock of actually what's happening, I always get some learnings out of them. But I've actually worked with Shirley on a couple of different projects. And so I know it at a little bit more deeper level that half an hour, I can promise you, if you are someone who is sitting there going, I don't think I can have all that, even if that presentation resonated with you a little bit, it's nothing to what the half an hour bonus is going to be if you just take out your time and just have a chat with her. I know Shirley, when she says no sales calls, I know that what it is there is because she's not very good at selling, all right? So that's some of the work that we've always done there. So when she says no sales, I know it's going to be no sales. You're just going to get some really good ahas about something that is going on for you. And even if you learn just one thing, I can't tell you the amount of things that I've said no to now, but that's just allowed me to get very, very clear and very, very good at the things that I've said yes to. I wouldn't be as successful as I am today if it wasn't for a mentor like Cheryl. I really mean that, Cheryl. Thanks so much. So we've got some comments here that I'd just like to address. If you've got some questions, feel free to chat them into the chat bar. If you're watching this on the replay, just type in replay, and then Shirley will come in and she, from time to time, will check these. If not, I will make sure that I bring them to her attention. So if you're watching this and you want to know something about what's going on in your life, then please feel free to reach out. So let's just cover a couple off. All All right. So Jeff Walsh came back again and sort of said, "There's often better light at the end of the end of a dark tunnel. Well done getting through it." Yeah, it sounds like Jeff, you've had some
Thanks, Jeff.
dark moments yourself. So be a good friend if you've reach out to someone you care about. This is a big one here. Wow. Okay. Hi, Shirl. My wife and I made the big move nearly 11 years ago, left Bris Vegas and bought a vineyard in Guns Plain here in Tassie. Oh, that's right. I forgot, Ross. Sadly, we sold that. No, boo. So I can't invite you to our cellar door for a cheese platter and wine tasting. However, we now live in Devonport. Well, where are you, Shirl? Are you close to Devonport?
We will be going to Devonport when
Okay.
we can get back across. Yeah,
Okay.
but we're in Strawn at the moment.
Okay, so when you're ready and allowed to turn the map. Okay, great. All right, so I'll get those down.
Thank you, Ross.
Thanks, Ross. Okay, I've got another one from he's a participator. I have the mindset of the power of positive thought is the solution to limiting beliefs. Is that a book, Jeff? Have you ever heard of that book, Cheryl?
Well, we think about a lot about the power of positive thought, and what our brain needs is the evidence. So yes, power of positive thought and mental rehearsal and visualization certainly helps, but the brain needs evidence. And so that's why we have to stack the evidence. And there is a book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And there's also another one by Clement Stone as well, which, we read a long time ago and made a talisman. So this little ring that I have there, he was saying you want to have some sort of icon or something talisman that reminds you of that. So, yeah, I certainly agree with Jeff and go one step further with the evidence for the brain.
I'd agree. He's just come back and sort of said that it's one of his sayings. But I would agree with the evidence part, because you can have the belief that, yes, I want to be rich, or I'm going to be rich and sort of thing. It wasn't until I did the work with you, even just, like a 5-minute just chit chat sort of thing. But really, there's no such thing as a 5-minute chit chat with Shirley. You're always coaching. And I'm only just waking up to that now, you clever woman. But it was when you planted that seed inside my head. You know me too well that you planted that seed inside my head, and then I carried out the action and then went looking for the evidence, even though, and I think you might have even said, you give me some examples where it happened from, I don't know, it could have been some sort of government money or something that happened to you, and it was only a small amount. So I knew to look out for just evidence. Doesn't matter the dollar amount or whatever the bonus was. It was just to look for evidence. And the more that happened, the more that my belief just kept on going. And every morning I almost did it like a chant sort of thing, it's coming to me in many forms, and went looking for more evidence, and it just continued to continue. So it is amazing, though, how much my belief system was not the things that were happening were not in alignment with my beliefs. So they were never going to happen. All right.
No.
Because I was the same as you in terms of the business, knowing who's going to want what I've got. So that's just going around and around circles, isn't it?
Yeah. And what we know is that we have 70,000 thoughts a day, and we're unaware of the majority of them. In fact, we're only aware of 1% of them, even though they are 100% responsible for what we produce. And so it's really important to uncover the limiting beliefs and then to do the work.
Shirl, I wanted to just put up here, so if you want to have a chat with Shirl, you can just type in chatwithshirl.com. But I wanted to find out and add a couple of extra questions to our Facebook Live, and that is, who would be a good referral for you?
Good referral for me would be somebody who works with business owners and sees the frustration that they have and knows that they're looking to get some help with that. So it could be an accountant, it could be a bookkeeper, it could be other business owners. We when we're talking at networking events, how are things going? Oh, the bloody staff, da-da-da.
I can't find a good man, I can't find a good woman, but I can't find good staff is what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I work with people in generating leads, and I guess that the work that you do is not my skill set. So it's actually, I would be doing my clients an advantage by referring them onto you.
And likewise for referrals and sales for me. I mean, you've taught me so many things over the years.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. Who are the businesses that you find naturally when you're working with these particular businesses? Which are the industries that you find easy to refer?
What do you mean by easy to refer?
Well, so in the work that you do, sometimes you make people more successful, all right? Certainly easier to do work or do their work. It might be you find it easy to refer a recruiter for them to talk to people about getting better staff. It might be that you refer them, you make the businesses owners more successful, with their leadership skills and communications so that they have a better business and then could refer to a travel agent. So which industries do you find easy to refer after working with clients?
Well, it really depends on the goal of the client. And when you mentioned travel agent there, and, sadly, I really feel for them at the moment. And one of my clients, his goal was to take his family on a 6-week holiday at Christmas. And, there was all these reasons why he couldn't do that. Anyway, we worked on that and they did go. And so they did use a travel agent to book, their 6-week holiday. Another client wanted to buy a catamaran and sail around the Pacific Highlands, and they bought the boat in the Caribbean. So great referrals there for, anybody who's in the boat industry. I work with a lot of real estate agents, and so I can refer them to a lot of sales training and a lot of software, IT for different programs that will make life easier. So it really depends on the goal that the person has as to where we would go from there.
Cool. That's a great way to sort of wrap up the show. It's just a little element I wanted to add to the show. After all, I am that referral guy, and I wanted to show you that it's important to actually build relationship, connect with people, because you just never know who could be referring you on to their clients. So I'm going to wrap up here. Make sure that you reach out to Shirley, take advantage of that half an hour offer. If you're listening to the replay, just comment replay and we'll come back to you or get a notification. Thank you so much, Shirley, for spending the morning with me. It's always a great pleasure to talk to you. I feel honored that I'm able to do that in front of my audience. So I will say goodbye now. So, all right, Glenn Kirkwood, aka That Referral Guy, signing off with a reminder to make, build, and share connections. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.